He had just begun to reach maturity when the show was over, and that was a great loss to track and field when we lost Pre.
For those of us who were here at the time, that was one of those stories that will, you know, it is the where were you when JFK was killed of Eugene.
I was the last person to see Steve Prefontaine alive. I probably talked to him maybe 2 or 3 minutes before he died. And he was fine, I was fine. I said goodnight to him, and we may have even talked about running the next day. And I went to sleep actually feeling very good, like it had been a great evening. And lo and behold, I got awakened early the next morning by Kenny Moore, and he told me that Steve had died heading down the hill.
Well, he dropped Frank Shorter off at my house, as near as we can tell, about 10 minutes after midnight on the 30th of May, 1975. A warm, clear, dry night. And he drove off down the hill, and about a minute later came around this curve, and for some reason took such a hard left that he hit the curb here, and that lifted his left front tire, corner of the car, enough so that when he hit the embankment, flipped the car over on top of him and essentially suffocated him.
I was at that last track meet in May of 1975 and saw his last race, and was walking into Allen Hall the next morning for a journalism class, and a friend named Mike Yorkie said, "Hey, did you hear about Pre?" And I said, "No," and he said, "He's dead." And it was just surreal to think that someone who had become this real icon of distance running and courage and all that good stuff could be gone.
My mother called me in college, told me what had happened, and I'm feeling emotional right now because that was a shock. And I went out and ran for 20 miles, probably bawling the whole way.
After the memorial service at Hayward Field, I think they stopped the clock at what, 12:18 or 12:13 or something for a 3 mile, somewhere around there. I remember. I was sitting in the east stands and fairly high up, and boy, I'll tell you, I think I was probably the last one to leave the stadium. I couldn't go.
Seldom in athletics do you reach a point as a spectator or as a teammate watching someone come out to the field and you want to just stop everything you're doing and watch.
He taught us about passion. Again with Bowerman, I mean, Bowerman taught you about passion. Steve as a pupil probably understood that better than any of us who had competed for Bowerman, but that passion rubbed off on all of us. He taught us how to compete. Competition, being competitive was not always about winning. It was about sometimes losing, taking a fall, and then coming back up and doing your best again, and Prefontaine was the best at that.
He really not only set a tone for his sport, which is really badly lacking today, but as you can see doing this interview in Pre-Hall on the Nike campus, that for me at least, he set a tone for this whole company. Of all the great athletes that have worn our products on the field of battle, we made a statue of only one of them, and that was Steve Prefontaine.
Steve belonged in running. I mean, he belonged in his event. He belonged in Oregon. You know, he belonged in Coos Bay, he belonged in Eugene, he belonged on the Olympic team. That's what he was, and I would hope that people could learn about him and at least as far as he was able to get in his life and say, maybe that's where I belong too.
What will your training be from here on out, Pre? Will you stay here or go to Europe or what? Take a week off now and do light jogging and kind of get away from track and field for a while.
When people try to, or ask me to try to describe Pre, I just say he's an Oregonian. So, you know, enough said.